the previously scheduled live. So hopefully people will find this. I don't understand why it's not doing what it's supposed to do for me. So I'm gonna pop over into the group too, because hopefully I can just find this on YouTube because it looks like no one's here yet. People are waiting on the other one. So hopefully people will kind of pop over because I don't know why it was doing this for me. Um, it's really annoying actually. So we're a little delayed that way just so I can get this set up and everyone, let's see, because now I can't see that I'm live here. Let me click this and then hopefully I can share. Copy link. Let me go over and add comments to this. Let's see. Here. All right. We got two in, so some people found it already. But we're having some technical difficulties on this linking up for the link that I had used and set up before. So I'm going to copy this and paste this in the paste. Okay, hopefully people will see that right in there. So I think we should be good. Hopefully if they pop over there, we'll see it. So we are doing sleep mask this week. It is our week 5 project. Now let me go back to where I really am live. And so I can actually see things. All right, now check my settings here. Okay, cool. I think we're set up and we're good with that way. So I think we're ready to go. Hey, you found us. Hello. So sorry for kind of the mix up with the link and all that, but we are here. We're here to do our sleep mask. I'm going to move this over a little bit so I'm centered. Turn my volume down there and hopefully everyone will be ready to rock and roll here soon. I've got my stabilizer hooped up. So this is one that's meant for fabrics. I'm going to be using Minky. I prefer Minky or fleece on the sleep mask, but you could absolutely use whatever fabric that you have. Vinyl is going to be pretty stiff for a sleep mask. I have this one. A lot of mine are all packed up, but this is in quilting cotton. This one, so you can use quilting cotton too. They're just a little stiffer, and they're not quite as soft on the face. So I prefer Minky. Um, it can get kind of hot in the wintertime or in the summertime rather. So you don't have to use Minky on both sides. You could use Minky on one side, and I've used satin, like a cheap kind of off satin I got from the fabric store on the backing of that, which makes it a little more comfortable. So it's not two layers of Minky if it's hot, if you're a hot sleeper. Um, these do come in two sizes, the child size and the adult size. The child size is the biggest I can get it in a 5x7, and it's more toddler size. It's pretty small. So honestly, from anyone kind of school age and up, an adult mask size is fine. My 10-year-olds are wearing the sleep mask probably since she was probably 7 or so with the adult size. So if you're kind of wondering which size to do, 90% of the time you're going to want the adult. If you've got really little bitty ones like 3 and 4-year-olds, you can get away with the child size. So just to give you some frame of reference. So I've got stabilizer hooped. I'm using Badge Master on mine, but you could use tearaway. You could really use cutaway. The only reason I don't like cutaway on these is I like them to have a little bit of stretch, and the cutaway kind of keeps it from stretching. So, and then tearaway, I find sometimes with denser designs and things, it just doesn't hold up to the stitches very well. That's why I'm opting for Badge Master, but you can make whatever you have on hand work. Just note kind of like the pros and cons of each kind of stabilizer as you pick. So, first step, like any of our designs, is going to be our placement stitch on the stabilizer, just to show us where to place our Minky. You're just going to need 2 pieces of fabric and either a 10-inch piece if you're using the child size mask or a 12-inch piece of elastic. I like fold over elastic because it's a little softer to the hand than just kind of traditional elastic, and you can get it in all kinds of like fun colors and prints, which is nice. So that's my preference with this. And I actually have a really cool shop on Etsy that I find all kinds of cool fold over elastic on pretty cheap. So I can figure out what that shop is. I think it's once upon a time shop on Etsy, and I've gotten so much elastic from her shop. So that's a good place to kind of go. But you could use regular elastic too if that's all you have on hand is like kind of your basic elastic, what you would find on like the craft store. That's fine too. It's just an appearance thing. I kind of like to have the fun prints and colors on the masks, but don't fret if you can't source that. So I've got my first layer of Minky. We've got our placement stitches down. When you're using Minky or fleece, take note of the direction of stretch on that fabric. So it's going to typically stretch one way. So this way does not stretch. This way does stretch. What I want to do is I want to get that direction of stretch to be horizontal across the design. So it's going to be stretching from right to left. That way it'll give you a little bit of flex when you're wearing a mask, a little more comfortable. And that's going to be true of when we do stuffies and things too. I really want that direction of stretch to go across the design and not up and down. And also pay attention too, because there's going to be a right side and a wrong side to your Minky. So you can see how this side here is the nap's a little smoother, where this side here is a little rougher. That's going to be your wrong side. If you mess up or you like it fluffier, you can use the wrong side. There's not like a hard and fast rule that says you can't. But if you want that kind of more subtle, smooth of hand, make sure that you put that fabric down that way. Also pay attention to the direction of the nap of the fabric. So when you push this up, see here, it means my nap is running this way. So I can smooth it down this way, it's kind of flat. When I go this way, it goes up. I like this to be like, if I'm imagining like an animal or something, like their hair goes one way, right? I think of the same thing when I'm making stuffies and sleep masks. I want that to kind of go up and down and the direction of stretch to go across. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to place this, the first piece of Minky, right down on my hoop over all of my stitches, making sure it's all covered. One thing to note too, if it may not come up on sleep masks so much, but it will when we get to stuffies. If you have the option to raise the height of your presser foot on your machine, I think most machines, besides some like starter 5x7 machines, will give you that option. It will be helpful, especially at that second layer. I think I'll be fine for this, but if you're using really thicker material like some faux fur, or you're finding that you're having an issue with your fabric getting bunched up, if it's going, always raise that presser foot height if you can on that because it'll help. Oop, I forgot to get my topper. And with Minky and fleece, I always like to use a topper on top of the design. So I find that when you're using a thicker fabric or a fabric with a nap, like towels, Minky, fleece, the stitches will have a tendency to kind of sink in and get eaten up by this nap of fabric. So I like to use a water soluble topper on top of that just to kind of keep the stitches sitting on top of the fabric and looking nice and crisp and not kind of getting eaten and absorbed by the fabric direction. So, how I like to do this, I'm using plastic topper, like a water soluble topper. This typically comes in two kinds. There is the plastic kind and there is the mesh kind, which looks more like a fabric. I will say that the mesh kind is actually like it's probably kind of superior to the plastic. But the only downside with that is that you have to actually wash it out. With the plastic, I can rip it away. So that's why I kind of default to the plastic, but either one will work just fine. It's just the mesh is a little easier to work with because this has a tendency to kind of pull and stretch and things like that. So how I counter that is one, you could go around and you could put some pins in out of your line of stitching to secure this topper down. That's kind of the what a lot of people do. What I like to do, I'm going to switch colors here. What I like to do is actually go back to the very first step to tack down that topper. I need to pick the right color blue here. Yeah, that's a little greenish, isn't it? Let's see. Watch me not have the right color blue. I need like a little tiny teal touch to it. This is what happens when I don't pick the right colors out ahead of time. I get stuck trying to find the perfect color and then never find it. So You know what? We're going to go with that. It's a little brighter than I want it to be, but all right. So I've got my topper on top. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to back up to the very first step so I can avoid the pinning and all that nonsense to get that topper nice and secure on there. Where is, let's see. I don't know where that went. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back up a few steps. If you want to pin it, you absolutely can. I just find this to be a little quicker and easier. And what I do like to do is kind of really watch this because this has a tendency with this topper to kind of slip around and get bunched up. So I kind of just keep an eye on it. Um, Obviously, I don't want to get my hand stitched through. So I just kind of keep my fingers out of the way, but I kind of try and make sure that I'm working to kind of keep this smooth as it stitches around. And if you get a little tiny bit of bunching, it's not typically a big deal. Like right there, I'm going to get a little bit there. It's going to be fine. I'm talking about where you get like these huge bunches that either your pressure foot can kind of get stuck on or it can kind of distort some of the stitches if it has to stitch over a lot. But a little tiny bit of wrinkles is fine. All right, and we're down. So now we have our topper down. We didn't have to pin anything. It took us 15 seconds. So I'm going to go back to the step that we should be on, which is our quilting step. And let this run for a minute. I guess that color's not too. I didn't have just the right blue that I wanted in my head. So but this is close enough. We will make it work. And I also, I do find Sleep Master honestly pretty easy designs to work with. This is our probably first, what, three-dimensional project we've done so far with the skill builders, but they're probably, it's a nice kind of entryway into doing other things like covers and bags and stuffies. They're pretty simple. And the next step will be our longest step. This is according to my machine, and I have my machine speed down to 400 stitches per minute. This is a 12-minute stitch out. So it's not a very, they don't take that long to stitch out. Obviously, some with more design elements in them do take a little longer, but the actual mass part is not long to stitch. All right, so we've got our quilting step down, and we're gonna do the bows now. And this is 6 minutes, what it says on my machine. Unlike the patch week that we had where it was like stitching for 11 million years, sleep masks are pretty quick. Let's just let those bows stitch out. And here is my word of advice. If you do ever raise your pressure foot on your machine, please make sure that when you're done with that project, you lower the pressure foot. Last time I stitched out a stuffy, I had my presser foot raised, and then the next time I went to use it, forgot that I had it raised, and I spent an hour going through my machine because it was kept breaking threads. I kept getting thread nests. It was just stitching kind of crappy, and I spent an hour cleaning out the bobbin case, going through making my tension just were clear, adding a new needle, like doing all the steps I would kind of go through. And the entire problem was that I just forgot to lower my presser foot height, and they don't like having that raised higher than it needs to be. So this is just the boring part of watching it stitch. All right, we're down one bow. We got 4 more to go. So this is kind of the boring part, just watching it stitch. And hopefully everyone had a good weekend. I spent most of yesterday just kind of rotting in bed, not doing anything productive at all. And then today I spent the day kind of organizing cabinets, our pantry. So I feel like I kind of made up for being a lazy bum yesterday by all the organizing and cleaning I did today. These are cute little gifts for Easter baskets too. I don't think I have a bunny mask. I feel like maybe I need a bunny mask for Easter. Maybe I do have one and I'm forgetting, which is completely possible. But it's funny, I find that like the designs that people are stitching kind of comes in like they kind of come and go out of style. Like there was a minute I was doing sleep masks and they were like everyone was making sleep masks and then it kind of died down and now it seems to be coming up like, just like the sanitizer cases. Like I hadn't made any new ones in years and I was getting tons of requests for sanitizer cases. So making those. It's just funny how things come kind of full circle back around after they've kind of gone out of style for a minute and then they come back. Which I think is true for me. I find myself drawn to making the same kinds of designs. Like I'll get on like a kick of like I'll do a bunch of patches one month or a bunch of bags one month or just kind of what I'm feeling in that moment. So I imagine a lot of people are like that as well. But next week we have mug rugs. So make sure for next week, if you're stitching with us, make sure that this is the first time you're really going to want to have quilting cotton on hand to make that mug rug. And you also want to have some type of batting or fleece. You can use fleece in a pinch too. Um, to that, I'm using Badge Master only because I can tear it away at the end, but it still acts like it still stabilizes the stitches like a cutaway would. So I don't like to use cutaway on the. You can. I personally just don't prefer to because I like the mask to have a little stretch like across the front of the mask when you're putting it on, so it's not so stiff. And cutaway tends to kind of take away that elasticity of the fleece. And I don't use tearaway a lot only because I don't know. I find it just it's great for certain things, but I have to use so many layers to kind of get the same effect of like one layer of cutaway. So Badge Master is kind of the best of two worlds with that, where I get that stabilization I would get from my cutaway, but I can tear it away at the end. So if that makes sense. I also use Badge Masters on my stuffies for the same reason because I really want that the stuffies to have stretch when you put them in, and you can't really get that same level of stretch using cutaway. And the design on the stuffies typically with like the applique pieces and satins are just too dense to use like one layer terry. We need several layers. But that's just a preference thing. If you want to use cutaway in your mask and you like it, go for it. There's no like right or wrong that you like can't use that. Like I think I did use so on this one that was fabric, there's obviously no stretch to it. So I did use cutaway on this one because I wasn't going to obviously it's not going to have any stretch. All right, just one more bow. And then we pass kind of the boring part here of just waiting for things to stitch out. And if you haven't already, now is a good time to cut your elastic so you're ready to go for the next step. So you want 10 inches for a child mask and 12 inches for an adult size mask for your elastic. We're almost there. And grab some masking tape too, so we can get that elastic spear down. Hey, welcome. The only bad thing is about the YouTube is everyone has their YouTube handle, and I don't know what they are. So I'm like, at least with Facebook, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what this is. On YouTube, I do not. All right, so now we are ready for the elastic. So for the elastic, you're gonna do the placement stitch. So that's gonna tell you where to kind of center your elastic on either side. So you want to be able to see that line. So make sure that you're using a thread color that you can see on your fabric. All right, so ready for our elastic. So a couple things about elastic. When you're doing it, you want it to go face down, but pay attention if you have a directional, if you're using a fancy fold over elastic and you've got a directional print, make sure that you're mindful of that too when you place that so that you don't end up having like some cute design in your elastic and then when it's finished, it's upside down. So just keep in mind, mine is not directional, does not matter. So I'm just gonna take it and pop this out of the hoop so we can see here. All right, I'm gonna take my elastic and I'm gonna lay it so it is centered in that line right there. And I'm gonna grab some tape. And I am going to tape it actually on the inside of the mask. So let's see. Of course, I made it wonky when I did that. It's okay if it stitches out a little bit. If it's elastic, it's gonna stretch. So don't get too caught up on that. I'm gonna do a little tiny piece at the top of it here. Just outside of my line of stitching. My machine does not like stitching over tape at all. I'm actually so the shop that I use on Etsy, I want to say it's called Once Upon a Time, like craft supplies or something. I will find the link because this is where I get all mine from, and it's got all. And she's pretty reasonable. It's like a dollar something for like a yard of the elastic, and she has like grab bags all the time too, so it's a great option to kind of. I have boxes of fold over elastic because I have a problem with buying things. But I will find that and I will link that here in the comments. And I'm going to just fold this excess down because I don't want this to kind of get drug. So I'm also just going to kind of fold this over just so my excess isn't gapping out. And I'm going to add some tape. So now I've got this all taped down. I'm going to grab my other piece of Minky. Again, you can also use something else in the back. It doesn't have to be Minky. I've used satin and that works really well too. You could use fabric if you want to, but I like a softer feel against the eye. So again, check your direction of stretch. That's how I've cut it. And you want your right side, your smoother side to be down. And we're going to lay that right on top. And I'm going to change my thread color back to kind of match the color of the Minky or close to it. Yeah, I will totally put a comment here when when this is over and I have my hands free because I'm pretty sure it's Once Upon a Time Supply on Etsy. I think she's still in business, but it's pretty reasonably priced too. All right, so if you're using like a thicker plush, like a faux fur or something, I think I just unthreaded my needle here. No, I didn't, but did I just knot it? No, I don't trust myself sometimes. All right. So with this, if you need to raise your presser foot, this is a good time to do it. I think I'm actually okay at the height that I am. I'm looking, it's kind of there, but I'll be all right. But I will kind of stay close so I can make sure it's not going to get pulled up and bunched up and kind of pucker. So, oop, I'm going to go. If I have to stop and raise it, I will. But I think we're okay. It's just 2 layers of Minky. Feels weird though. Am I bunched up? No, it's just the tape. I felt like I had like a bunch under there and I was checking my elastic to make sure that I didn't get like untaped and hunched over. But we're good. I'm just paranoid. And again, I'm just kind of keeping my hands close. That way, if it starts like, oh, just knocked you off. If it starts like bunching or puckering, I can kind of keep an eye on that. This isn't a step that you want to walk away from because that's the one time this will shift on you and half the material will end up being all bunched and puckery. So just stay close. I'm not really doing a whole lot. I'm just keeping an eye on it. If I need to pull the fabric, I will, but we're pretty good. A lot of where you're seeing this raised up here is from where the elastic is taped. And honestly, this would be helpful if I raised my presser foot up, but I'm committed now. And I keep hitting the phone. I'm sorry. Rubber spatula is smarter than your hand for sure. I probably should do that. I have my little purple thing tool, which I love for when we get to notebook covers. In fact, you can see right here, if you can see that little hole right there, that's for my needle, which better this than my finger. But it's not quite big enough for big areas. So plastic spatula is a really good idea. All right, so I'm gonna move everyone over to the table so we can cut this out. So if you get seasick, um, just kind of close your eyes for a second. We're gonna move over. We're gonna come here right to the table. Sweet. Okay. All right, so we're here. Let me grab my hoop. We are here. iPad. All right, so we're ready to go. So we're ready to go ahead and pop this out. And this is where I like the Badge Master because I can just rip it away. But I get kind of the same stabilization as I would get um, from a cutaway. The annoying part is I forgot this is quilted, so now I have all these little squares to pull out. It's a lot quicker to pull it out on a non-quilted mask. My time changed last weekend. So yeah, if you weren't here last weekend, it would be different if you're not on daylight saving times. I think that kind of messed some people up too because the daylight saving time sneaks up on you. And I think honestly, I think the last round of skill builders, I think sometimes we did do it later, like 8 o'clock. All right, just a couple more pieces to pull away here. Got it. All right. And honestly, if you don't want to go through all that drama, you could just throw this in the washing machine to get that. That was Badge Master, so it will wash away. I just am impatient. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of my topper here to get this out of the way when I'm cutting. And I'm gonna grab some scissors. Oh, are you in the UK? Because I know a good friend of mine is in the UK and we're always 2 weeks off. And we call it like the magical fortnight, is what she calls it, because it's like a better time for us to chat in the evenings. Um, Sweden. So imagine you're probably same thing. Yeah, a lot of how much Europe is changing later than we are. All right, so here is our opening hole. I don't know if you can see it from here. I want to make sure when I'm cutting, I leave a lot of excess on this opening hole. I'm going to come in. I'm actually going to go to this side where I can see it a little bit better. The opening, let me cut the opening on this side too, so I know where to start my line. And then here I find it a little easier to cut on this side. And just trim as close to your stitches as you can get without actually cutting into your stitches, because nobody likes that. Nope, I'm sorry. I keep pulling it closer to me because I'm having to hold it out in front of the camera. So I'm sorry if I keep disappearing. But I promise I'm just cutting. That's all I'm doing. All right. And this is where I started it here. I just want to keep that longer than the rest of it. Doesn't need to be quite as long as I have here. I'll cut it down, leave maybe about an inch or so here at the top. All right. So, oh, and I got a piece of mist here. Give that a trim. All right. So what I do like to do, if you are a sewist, you'll know what I'm going to do here. But this curve here on the inside of the nose, I like to go in with some really tiny scissors and just give it a snip. Don't cut the stitches, but just give it a little snip right up, just up to those stitches. And then it will help that kind of with any puckers you might be getting when you turn this on a curve. So just a couple little snips. It doesn't need to be super deep, just up to those stitches. That way it gives a little more flexibility. So it lays nicer on the nose. All right, so we're here. Got my excess here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it to the top of the mask. And trust the process. Right now it looks a little wonky. That's fine. All right, let's go ahead and get this tape off and get this topper off. Why is my masking tape sticking tighter than it's ever stuck before, ever once? It never sticks for me. All right, so same thing. Go ahead and pull. Again, if you don't want to pull your topper off, you could throw it in the wash. You absolutely don't have to tear this off. It will dissolve in water. But I am impatient, so that's why I like this topper. I don't have to take that extra step of washing it to get it out. All right, so here's where we are now. So we have our excess. The reason I had to leave excess here at the top because it's going to be easier to tuck that in and secure that. So now go ahead and tuck that excess in there at the top, kind of pull it taut here and get yourself nice and flat there. All right, you could either, a couple things you can do is you can hand stitch this close like a ladder stitch. I suck at hand stitching. I don't do that. What I like to do is just grab some fabric tack glue and I like to glue that shut. So I'm going to grab a clip, just put a couple clips in. That way it holds it where I had it nice and folded down neatly before I started. All right. Oop, more tape there. All right. So get your glue. I have a love-hate relationship with fabric tack. It takes forever to work its way down. It's so my and I just got it on my hands because of course I did. That's why my love-hate relationship. All right. I think I've got enough in there. All right. So I'm going to open up. I'm going to leave the rest of the clips here just so I can work in a small section at a time. You don't want to use too much. Get down there. You don't want to be right on the edge. You want it to kind of get down there a little, about a 1/4 inch inside, and just kind of run it in there. And then as you pull the glue out, squeeze the fabric, and that'll keep any excess from like oozing out of the turning hole here. And then add your clip back. Go over here to the middle one. Open that up. Same thing. Get down in there. Kind of squeeze it about, probably about a 1/4 inch or so down there inside that turning hole. Squeeze that fabric, the nozzle there. Add my clip. Come over here. Same thing. About a 1/4 inch down in there. Add your glue. Not too much. I'm not really squeezing it really hard. It's kind of a thin bead. Doesn't take that much. And add a clip. This will take about an hour to dry, but honestly, it's going to lay flat enough. I can take these off for you now so you can see, but that's it. So here is the front. Here is the back. And that'll be closed up soon. So that's much neater for me than doing a ladder stitch or hand stitching because I'm just not neat at hand stitching. I'm just really not. I can bind a quilt by hand, but that's about it. So, but yep, there you see it's nice and sealed now, and I don't have any globs of glue here at the top. That's why I kind of squeeze that fabric as I'm pulling the nozzle out. That way it keeps it from oozing out on me. And that's it. You have a sleep mask. So see, they're pretty quick. They're pretty easy. I mean, the length of time is going to depend on the design that's on it. If there's more stitching, obviously will take longer. But they're so fast. They're easy. They're great Easter gifts. They're great birthday gifts. They're just like fun spa baskets. If you ever have to do like a raffle basket or something for somebody, or if you just want a cute sleep mask, especially as it gets light, stays lighter later when you're going to bed. So I will look up that shop for Etsy and I will add that comment here for the fold over elastic. But next week we'll be doing mug rugs. So hopefully you guys can join me again next week. Most likely same time, same place. I'll have it scheduled midweek again. You guys should have gotten the design on Friday. And that's all I have. So hopefully everyone has a fabulous week and I will see you guys here next week. All right. Bye everyone.